Vanguards and astronauts, this is Internet Personality Evangelist, and I've got a review sample of one of the retail colorways for the second major release in 3A's 1/6 scale Evenfall line. This is the Alpha Contact version of the Totem Thugsuit Pugilo, and he really quickly punched his way out of his bubble-wrapped shipping cocoon, so let's get straight up and down to the review proper, before he decides to, punch me. Fictionally, the Thugsuit Pugilo are remote-controlled robots that the Totem organization uses as a first defense against intergalactic threat. So they greet alien monstrosities with metal fists. The design is a cool mix of a diving suit and a retro sci-fi robot with thick proportions, meaty hands, and a very inhuman torso that doesn't have a head, so much as a protrusion. The arms are a little ape-like, lending to the image of a pugilist powerhouse punch machine. While there are several highly weathered colorways, the Alpha Contact version seen here is by far the shiniest. It's got a silver and brass layout that only serves to enhance the old-timey science fiction motif, with identifying tampografs and some decent dark edge weathering. That silver paint, though, it is eye-catching, to say the least. Once again, 3A are pretty good at making plastic look like metal, and the effect strikes hardest in the brass sections, particularly the rear vent flaps and their concealed turbine detailing. The interlinked opening gimmick works like a charm, by the way. The Thugsuit Pugilo hands make for good fists, but when splayed open, you can really see the Ashley Wood roots, as they definitely appear to be a close cousin to the World War robot Bertie. Speaking of which, this guy is supposed to be 1/6 scale, and that means he is friggin' huge at approximately 16 inches tall. 3A's various original IP toy lines often have a lot of aesthetic bleed over, so a Thugsuit looks right at home, alongside Adventure Cartel's Fighting JC, or World War Robot's Dirty Deeds Bertie. The 1/6 scale versions of both of those, by the way. There are 1/12 scale versions. It can get complicated. If you remove a big back-mounted panel, you can install 3 AG1 batteries to power the Thugsuit's lights. The on-off switch is right above the power compartment, which unfortunately does mean you need to remove the backpack panel to toggle the LEDs. The effect is worth it though, as the Thugsuit's 4 eyes blaze up with properly bright bluish-white light. It works particularly well with this Alpha Contact colorway's already shimmering finish. I just wish that switch was somehow accessible from the outside, or was a push-button thing built into the backpack. Pulling the whole panel off to turn them on and off is just enough bother to make me complain about it. Bad news first. This thing and that thing, anything that looks like a head, nothing swivels up there, as far as I can tell. And given how well the rest of this guy's posability works, I think that's a real shame, because it's like the one thing missing in this link of expressiveness. Because over here on the shoulders, there is a big, thick, double ball barbell joint with a ball socket joint going into the torso, another ball socket joint inside the shoulder. Now, these have been seen before on 3A stuff. Specifically, a lot of their World War robots have this, and it's always quite limited. This one did something really cool. Aside from the fact that there's a whole lot of range going this way, there's a cut in the top entirely so you can get this to rotate outwards some more. It's a lot easier to do on the other shoulder, and I don't know why I didn't just start over here. That's what I'm talking about. These huge ball socket joints, they have paint on them. The paint obviously is scratching off of the ball socket joint where all the friction's happening. This one is a lot nicer to use than this one. This one is hell of a tight. And that might vary from figure to figure. Also, you might accidentally pull the ball socket off. It just pops back on, so there's no biggie. So this is a big-ass waist swivel. So there is some torso movement to let him look left and right. And I'm sure you can see, there's a bit of scratching down here. It was like this when it came out of the box. This is a non-packaged, wrapped in styrofoam in a shipping box review sample, so I'm not sure if that will be an issue for those of you getting this at retail. Inside the shoulder, there is a bicep swivel, and then this little flap moves too, and I don't really know why, but it does. Big ratchety elbow joint for some full 90-degree action. And then down here on the hand, you've got a wrist joint. There's a ball socket wrist joint, but then if you look up inside the cuff in here, there is also this hinge, which I think is a straight-up hinge. Just cut like this so you can move the wrist up and down like that, which is pretty darn cool. I think that the fist turned out okay. It has a hole in it. It's kind of like a toyetic fist, even though these fingers are fully articulated, but given the design of the hand, Certainly I don't have any easy solutions for how this could have curled up tighter other than more joints, but the hand is fully poseable, and thank goodness there's a ball socket connection in here. It's not got full spread, but it has just enough spread so the fingers aren't locked together like this all the time. Like you can get them out like that, that's what I want, man. So there's a ball socket joint here, a hinge here, and a hinge here. And it works alright. Some of these hinges feel a bit looser than the other ones. I'm not sure if that's going to be a super duper your mileage may vary thing. The thumb is on a ball socket joint. There's a cut up here so that the thumb can come out all the way to there. And then there are 2 hinges as well. The thumb is, pretty darn long. The hand is just pretty darn big. But it's real expressive. It's accomplishing most of what I want a hand to do. I think if really there's one thing I'd like to have seen altered, it would have been the thumb being slightly shorter, just for the sake of more posing options. Now over in the hips, things get real lovely. Just a buttery ratchet joint going forwards and backwards. An even more buttery ratchet joint going outwards, and this guy can pull a pretty darn good Van Damme. Then there is a dedicated thigh swivel. It's not ratcheted, it's just a big old tube is what it feels like. And then the knees are real clackety ratchety, which also reveals like detailing in there. And they bend just shy of 90 degrees, but past 45 degrees. They bend enough, I find, given the range in the ankle joints, which are the one thing that, man, I would have liked for these to have been ratcheted. The arms, the double barbell ball joint system in the arms is such a step forward. I'm okay with it, but down here it is just a ball socket joint for the ankle, and they feel tight right now. Don't get me wrong. I just worry about how they'll feel down the road, and obviously there are ways to fix that. I just don't want to have to think about it. And then after something like the 3A Starscream, and after feeling all the really good joints throughout the lower body, I find it a bit of a buzzkill that it ends with just a simple giant ball socket joint. The toe is also on a hinge, which supports weight more than I thought it would when I played around with posing this guy. And posing this guy is pretty fun. His weight distribution is interesting because he is not as heavy as he looks, so he's able to hold a lot more postures than I assumed he would be able to. Like, the toe joint is actually useful, which I quite honestly was going in expecting it to not be so. This is a pretty decently posable, gigantic robot toy. It's just a shame that, like, for all the great posability, he's always stuck looking straight forward to wherever his waist joint is moving. It's a piddly kind of thing to bring up in light of the fact this guy can literally look like he's about to punch an alien vampire's face into its colon, but, it's an expensive toy, and I just was so certain at least this top part would be able to swivel around. Like on the Birdies and on the Armstrongs of World War Robot, little optic-looking things were able to move around, and like, I don't know. If this was on a swivel, just a left and right swivel, this guy would have been hitting every mark for me. Hitting! This is a big designer toy with a big designer toy price coming in at just over $300 American a piece. Nothing particularly new when it comes to 1/6 scale 3A robots, but definitely a barrier point for a casual toy collector. You've got to be all up and into this new Ashley Wood property, or at the very least, this new Ashley Wood robot design. Speaking pure toy, though, the Thug Suit brings a number of articulation improvements that I really wish could be added into the World War robot designs for some kind of enhanced reboot. To see the basic layout of a Birdie or an Armstrong, but with the simple yet massive update to the range of the double barbell ball-jointed shoulders, topped off with ratcheting hinges, leaves me kind of envious as I look back on my World War robot collection. The Thug Suit is highly playable and very decently posable, with a durable feel in hand that makes one confident to spend a lot of finger time with the piece, despite its high price tag. But at that cost, I'm really bummed that there's no way to swivel either sets of quote-unquote eyes, and I rather wish the figure weighed a little bit more below the knees for its volume. On the bright side, it seems that if you do pick up one of these guys, you'll be able to have a lot of fun posing the thing without very much risk. Even with the somewhat hollow big center mass, it feels like I could probably beat up a child using this toy as a cudgel, and it would still look pretty darn mint when it goes back onto the Detolf. Anyway, this has been Internet Personality Vangelus, and if the size and price are putting you off, look into the smaller 3AGO thug suits. They're 1/9 scale and a more manageable 10 inches tall. And Pia got one that glows in the dark. True story!